then goes to 31.900 this morning. Did come on his last lap of the session. It was the only one at 31 that Pecco delivered this morning. Comfortably a lot faster this afternoon as he's got fresh rubber.
Very much according to the Pecco Bagnaia blueprint earlier on today. Never usually entertains a brand new tyre late on in Free Practice 1, saves those for when he needs them most, and he's going to need them this afternoon because this looks like a very difficult practice session to call, with Honda's looking competitive, the Yamahas look pretty good. Oliveira currently up in 4th place, the 2022 winner. Bezzecchi now takes 2nd place on the factory Aprilia on a 31.0, so it's Honda, Aprilia, Ducati, Yamaha, Ducati inside the top 6 as we stand at the moment. 13 minutes of this practice session gone, and is Jack Miller about to join his teammate up inside the top 6? He is. It's 4th and 6th now for Pramac.
Yeah, looking for a big boost, isn't he? Miller, as he mentioned, pre-home Grand Prix in Australia. Was on course for some points last time out in Motegi before he was the latest victim of the sort of chain dramas that are coming the way of some MotoGP teams and riders of late. Of course, KTM had 3 high-profile chain failures in the Misano Grand Prix weekend, including one that ruled out Pedro Acosta from what looked like a nailed-on 4th place. It was a snap chain last time out in Japan that ruled Miller out of contention. He does need a big lift, doesn't he? He needs a big weekend to take home to Australia. 6 points Miller has scored in the last 5 Grand Prix. No top 10 in 5 since Brno. Let's hope that Jack can find some form to take home in front of his big home support. Always a special weekend, of course, when we get the army of Miller fans camped out at turn 4, the Miller corner. So Marco Bezzecchi then out on this fresh medium rubber is already making a big play here, potentially for P1. Marini is that leads still with a 1:30.738, nearly 0.3 of a second clear of his fellow Italian Bez. Does Bez go top? No, not quite. Loses a lot in that 4th sector, doesn't he? Does Bezzecchi.
Alex Marquez has just moved up into the top 4 of 31.1 for him, matched by Alex Rins, who continues his very strong Friday so far. Certainly the best Friday we've seen from Rins so far in 2025. Conspicuous by his absence at the sharp end is Fabio Quartararo. The other 3 Yamahas at the moment are up in 7th, 6th, 7th and 8th respectively. Quartararo's only done 5 laps. The fastest of them is a mid-1:34, and the 2022 pole sitter's down in 19th.
Marini is really in the groove here, isn't he? He's loving this Friday so far in Lombok already, the fastest rider out on circuit this morning. He's bettered that pace, bettered that benchmark compared to FP1 already this afternoon in his opening 4-lap run on those fresh soft tyres. And straight away, having gone back out for his 2nd stint in this practice session, as you can see on screens, for Marini threatening to improve on his 1:30.738. Now, we saw the last lap how good Bezzecchi was in sectors 2 and 3. Well, he's just as good on this current lap. He lost a couple of tenths, though, didn't he, in this final split, did Bez? So we'll track him now, attacking through 15. Just 2 corners then now remaining. The low gear 16th, the right-hander initially, which is where Martin dumped it at lead in the sprint last year. Bezzecchi will then come over the line very, very shortly as Marc Marquez starts to explain to his Ducati crew what happened to him at turn 10. Out to the final corner then go Bez and Marini. Marini does improve, so did Bezzecchi, but we're now down to 1:30.613. And Mandalika so far is the Marini show.
Feels like the kind of session where we're just going to see lap times drop and drop and drop as we go through the session, as every time a lap is completed, more rubber is put down on this circuit. The grip levels go up as a result of that, because we've seen Bezzecchi on relatively fresh tyres go 2nd. Marini on 6-lap-old tyres has gone down to a 30.6 to top the session. Here's another look at what happened to Marc Marquez into turn number 10, a crash that we saw him with the sign language explaining very eloquently to his Ducati team a moment ago.
Yeah, just maybe a little bit of chatter, a little bit of vibration on the front as he squeezed on that front brake lever. We've seen him pull off so many phenomenal, haven't we, gravity-defying saves down the years, but not even Mark was going to bring that one back up. I repeat of his brilliant save at the very same corner on the Gresini Ducati last year. There are all the battle scars, the war wounds on the right-hand side of the factory Ducati. That should be a very quick repair job as far as they're concerned, as Marini once again already super rapid on this day one here in Mandalika. 1:30.613 is his reference time. just off your screens at the moment. We pick him up now in the final sector. Lucas nailing this current lap as well. He'll go left on the number 10 factory Honda. Potentially what a 130.5 in the offing here as we follow the Italian over the line. Not quite able to improve on his pace. It was close. A 130.635, only 200ths outside of his session topping time so far.
Every lap that's got on this factory Honda, further evidence and confirmation that they have made a quantum leap forward with this RC213V. They were pretty cautious speaking yesterday about talking their chances up too much. There is one of the masterminds behind Honda's recent progress, Romano Albasiano. But of course, this Mandalika circuit provides a very different challenge to the Motegi circuit of a week ago. Much higher track temperatures that you need to be aware of. Motegi very much a challenge of hard braking, much more stop and go in layout than this Mandalika circuit is, which does have some higher speed corners, the second sector in particular taken in 4th and 5th gear, but it's pretty evident at the moment in whatever circuit, whatever condition, whatever climate you put this Honda in, it's quick.
Since the summer break, the Honda has been completely transformed. A whole raft of new parts have been filtering out of Japan. New chassis, new swing arms, new electronics, engine tweaks, aero updates. Almost every component that you can change on that motorcycle pretty much has been changed over the last few months or so. And crucially, what's going to motivate the likes of Marini and Mir and co is every single new part that Honda offer to their factory riders. It's an improvement. Sometimes that's not always the case. It just keeps those MotoGP riders sharp. It keeps the motivation. They know that the factory behind them are working hard, burning the midnight oil. And crucially, every single step they make, even if they're baby steps, as long as they are tangible steps forward, well, you know you're moving in that right direction.
They're 3 consecutive mid-130s now for Luca Marini. 30.6, 30.6, 30.7 on his last 3 runs, but like Pedro Acosta on the KTM, who's also gone for a soft rear tyre now, that might be able to take over top spot. Acosta now into the mid-430s himself. A 130.435 for Pedro Acosta. It's now KTM, Honda, Aprilia, your top 3.
Acosta, of course, was bang on form here last year, front row of the grid. He was second in the Grand Prix, a close second as well, wasn't he, to our eventual race winner Jorge Martin. Let's have a listen to Acosta, shall we? Tackle this Mandalika circuit. We just broke away from that Pedro Acosta on board. Just gave you an indication of just how quick he was, or how quick this Mandalika circuit is, going through 6, 7, 8, then up through 9, the hard braking zone for turn 10. Acosta it is then that leads. Luca Marini was putting that 130.435 under some more big pressure. But once again, Marini finds a 130.6. He's reading off those mid-130s for fun. Right now, isn't he? Fabio Di Gianantonio just climbed up into 5th place. Let's go back down to pit lane and pick it up with Jack again.
Yeah, I've got Paolo Bonora with me, of course, race team manager down here at the Aprilia squad. Depleted Aprilia squad, of course, this weekend. Just firstly, Paolo, let's touch on the huge shame. Again, no Jorge Martin here last weekend after that big crash last Saturday involving Marco. Surgery was successful on the mend. Just on being in conversation with him, how is he doing after this yet another setback?
Yeah, you're right, Jack. Big injury, for sure. And yeah, the surgery was very good, very good. So now we are checking with the doctor the recovery plan to understand when we come back to the racetrack. For sure, I can confirm that in Phillip Island he will not join us, unfortunately. But we don't know about the next future, so we have to wait the medical examination to understand his physical situation day by day, because as you said, the was a big injury. There was it is not a standard collarbone crack, so there was 2 places, and yeah, it's necessary to wait, absolutely to wait. So a big hug to Jorge, and I would like to say to him that all of the team are closer to him in this particular moment.
Just looking at this weekend, Marco went out there on obviously new medium front and rear, but his pace looked pretty strong, 30.8 with his final lap. He's just gone back out on the soft rear. It looks as though as we're going through the day, the track is coming better and better.
Yeah, for sure the track is going better and better, and we know that here in particular during the Friday and Saturday and Sunday the lap time goes down. And but to be honest with you, Jack, the key is to understand very well the front tire in particular, because with the 3 options, the soft, the medium and the hard one, it is necessary to have a clear picture of the front tire with a lot of laps on it. And we are doing a good job with Marco today. He's understanding which is the best option for the bike and for him. And yeah, we are here. He likes so much this track layout, and also as we did the last time not such a bad result with Maverick last year. So we are keep working as usual, and try to fix in particular the last split, because we are struggle a bit since this morning.
Those 3 front tyre options are a challenge for everybody, but even more so for Aprilia only having 2 riders out there. Just how difficult does that make your job to get an understanding of what the best option is?
Yes, you're right. We have only 2 riders, unfortunately, and we are using we take the opportunity with Raul as well from this morning, because he used different tire, the front tire, to understand his movement, and yeah, to be part of the same team. And yeah, we have unfortunately 2 riders, and we have to take all the opportunities.
Thanks, Paolo. Have a good one.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks as always to Aprilia boss Paolo Bonora. Thanks once again, Jack. So we knew, of course, that there was no Jorge Martin this weekend in Mandalika. There will be no Jorge Martin at the Australian Grand Prix in Phillip Island over the course of the weekend of October 17th through 19th. Will he be back at the end of October at the Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang?
Sepang, in many respects, was where his nightmare 2025 began, with that crash nearly a dozen laps into pre-season testing. Alvesiano is smiling at what he sees, because the Hondas at the moment 3rd and 4th. That has become 3rd and 4th because Marco Bezzecchi has just set a 1:30.6 to take his Aprilia into 2nd place.
Yeah, we saw a replay when we were listening to Jack having a little chat with Aprilia boss Paolo Bonora a few months ago. There was some issue with the ride height device on Mia's factory Honda. That was very quickly rectified, and what a shot that was of Mia's rear tyre. In the air, foot in the air, not the ideal way to brake for the first corner, of course, because you do want a bit of rear grip helping you stop these 300 horsepower MotoGP bikes. I think it was one of the shots, the sights of the Japanese Grand Prix last weekend, wasn't it, to see Mia, how hard he was having to push on the brakes around that Motegi circuit. He said, really, that's the only way we can make up time. We're still missing a bit of acceleration, a bit of grip coming off the corners. That's something that the Honda engineers are going to be looking at into 2026. They've made massive strides in that area throughout the course of 2025, but it is still one of the sort of most glaring weaknesses of the factory Honda. Look at this by Bezzecchi out on the fresh rubber, out on the new tyres, and Bezzecchi is steaming towards P1 here, up by nearly half a second. We'll just track the factory Aprilia. Well, they might be depleted, a bit on the trend in terms of numbers, but they could be going into number 1 here in this session. Bezzecchi through the left-hander of turn 17. Whole rear ride-up device dropping down our factory Aprilia 129.903 from the Italian, over half a second clear than now of the chasing pack. First rider of the day into the 129s. A lot of approval there from Massimo Rivola. Top job that by Bezzecchi. That is an early statement lap time.
And most of the time he gained was in sector 2, the fast change of direction through turns 5, 6, 7 and 8, corners that are taken in 4th and 5th gear. Aprilia working beautifully through that part of the racetrack, and he was able to just build and build as the lap unfolded to get us under the 90-second barrier for the first time today. Marc Marquez returning to the racetrack then. We currently find the newly crowned world champion down in 18th place on his factory Ducati. Teammate Pecco Bagnaia, well, he's only a few places up the road in 14th place.
Wasn't that long ago, was it, where these flyway races were like kryptonite to the Aprilias. Whenever we came to the steaming hot conditions of Asia, of course, traditionally, as part of this end of season overseas tour, we would also be taking in the Buriram circuit in Thailand. That was, of course, our season over this year. How many times over the last 3 or 4 years did we see the Aprilia almost unrideable in these tropical climates? Just could not get the motorcycle cool enough for the riders to manage any kind of consistent pace. How many times did we hear Maverick Vinales and Aleix Espargaro say that they were threatening to pull in from races because they just simply could not continue? It was such a handful of heat coming off that factory Aprilia. Well, it's a cool motorcycle to ride, but they're still able to do hot lap times, aren't they? That's the most important thing, as Bezzecchi finds himself currently fastest. Once again, that rear tyre from Mir just ready to hop and skip on the brakes into the first corner. I don't think there was any braking zone last time out of those 24 laps in Motegi last Sunday, where Mir's front and rear tyre were both perfectly in line with each other going into the braking zone. There's another mistake here for Marc. That's going into 15.
A bit of a scruffy session so far, hasn't it, for the world champion, who's back out there on a fresh soft front, medium rear. There's pretty much every tyre combination available out there on the racetrack at the moment. Bastianini's hard medium, we've got Brad Binder hard soft, and a lot of riders at the moment have gone soft as they chase a time attack in the mid part of this session. Binder's just got up into the top 10 on a 31.1. This is not the afternoon that the world champion thought he'd be having.
Yeah, another twitch there as well as he went into the first corner. This has been anything but easy so far on this Friday for Marc. Here you go, yeah, he's just tipping it into that turn 1. Just a moment there. Does not look like a settled motorcycle underneath him at all. It's a bit twitchy, a bit nervous. Is that factory Ducati, and we haven't been able to say that to us now we're through this stellar 2025 for the Spaniard.
Oh, rather bizarre this. The leading Ducati at the moment is Fermin Aldeguer in 7th place. It's Aprilia, KTM, Honda, Yamaha, the top 6. Aldeguer's GP24 7th, Gian Antonio's GP25 8th. And then we've got Ralph Fernandez, Aprilia, and Brad Binder, KTM inside the top 10 at the moment. We've got Morbidelli, Alex Marquez, Bagnaia and Marc Marquez all outside the top 10.
We're going to be sending out the search parties, aren't we, soon, for Marc Marquez, who's rather uncharacteristically marooned down in 19th place.
Last now.
He's now just gone into last place because Maverick Vinales just found a bit of base. 20th place, 5 days after he won a 7th MotoGP World Championship. Of course, we know that they'll find solutions. They always do, don't they? Both Marc and his vastly experienced Ducati crew. Once again, looking hot to trot on those soft tyres is Bezzecchi, putting together another really strong lap here. Potentially 129.8 maybe. Right on board then with Bez, attacking hard then into this final sector, back through the gearbox, through into turn 16, second gear down to around 65 kilometers an hour at this particular part of the course.
Oh, he's down again,
Marc Marquez has gone down again. Marc Marquez then on the floor again, and a bit of concern there for his left hand as it scrapes on the tarmac.
Crash.
Well, Marco Bezzecchi has indeed just found the best time of the day, a 129.8. We said he was going to threaten a 129.8, but Marc Marquez, for the second time in this session, and that's a big one. That is a real big one. Losing the rear he was going through turn 5. Yeah, concerns there. Oh, dearie me, that just
hard on
snaps.
his right shoulder, and then it's his left hand that's sort of sliding along the tarmac, which will be pretty hot at around 60 degrees, so no wonder Marc Marquez picked his hand up off the tarmac. But a bruising Friday afternoon, crash number 2 in half an hour for Marc Marquez.
There ain't no traction control system in the world that's going to save you from those ones. Gets rear tyre, spins up as he's on the gas coming through 5. Nasty, vicious spill that, wasn't it, for Mark? He's had a few of them here down the years, hasn't he, in Mandalika. So that is, well, what a way to start his reign as MotoGP World Champion. Yeah, on the power he was. That is fast. That is a big old get-off for Mark. 4th gear you're motoring through there at over 160 kilometres an hour. Well, 5 days then after being crowned MotoGP World Champion, his reign as the MotoGP World Champion has got off to a very indifferent and painful start, to say the least.
So it's the same bike he crashed earlier on in the session, so he does still have his second Ducati. Here it is, it's been wheeled back. They're preparing that one then for Marc Marquez to compete. So I don't think he'll be getting that first bike back. He was lucky to get away with the first crash with cosmetic damage to the GP25. Much more damage done to it this time. You can see his record around this Mandalika circuit, which involves a crash and a mechanical over the years. It's usually eventful, but it's never really successful for Marc Marquez at this Pertamina Mandalika circuit. And at the moment, he ain't enjoying his Friday afternoon either.
Yeah, for the 10 laps that Mark did complete, he was 2 seconds off the pace. He was nearly 3.5 tenths behind the next classified rider, Somkiat Chantra, who himself has had a fall at turn 11 this morning on the LTR Honda. Well, I don't think any of us could really have seen this coming at all. His first day as the MotoGP World Champion. We'll see at the moment, Marc Marquez, 2 bruising crashes, last on the timing screens, and all at sea on the factory Ducati.
It's one of the areas that I'm completely in awe of these MotoGP riders. Of course, he's mentally, psychologically had to go through so much over the course of the last week or so. Of course, not just the build-up to winning the World Championship, but winning it itself. And then, of course, all of the celebrations that followed, all the media commitments, the lack of sleep he's had over the last week or so. Mentally, Marc Marquez must be running on fumes right now.
You can just see, it's a real tightrope here, these treacherous conditions. Not a lot of grip around. There was a twitch there for Bezzecchi as he was grabbing some
change of leathers.
Yeah, he needs a new set of leathers. He's had 2 attempts to wreck those ones. I think second attempt he finally did.
It wouldn't be asking for a selfie at this precise moment.
So Marc Marquez. Well, it's all gone rather spectacularly wrong for the world champion, hasn't it, on this practice Friday here in Mandalika. This was a nasty one. This is 4th gear. Yeah, just that rear tyre spinning up enough to spin him off the bike. Yeah, nasty one. Just look how heavy the impact was on the right arm, the right shoulder. Bit of a whack on his head. Then as he's sort of trying to bring himself to a stop on the perimeter road on the outside, that runoff area, the tarmac runoff area, just sort of scraping his left hand across the tarmac there. Maybe have lost a little bit of skin off those fingers on the left hand. Oh, that onboard did really give you an indication of just how hard Mark slammed down on his right hand side. Whew, that was a cage rattler, wasn't it, for the world champ?
So he's now got to go change leathers and hopefully change his fortunes from his point of view and try and refocus. I guess it's a case of trying to rediscover the motivation when you've climbed your Everest in MotoGP by winning the World Championship last weekend for the first time in 6 seasons. Now he's got to try and focus on a new challenge. Bezzecchi really is manhandling that Aprilia around this Mandalika circuit, forcing it to fit through the final corner. It's another sub-130. Bezzecchi serenely going about his business this afternoon.
We've got a battered and bruised Ducati star in Marc Marquez. We've got a Ducati star in Gigi Dall'Igna, who's also battered and bruised after some celebrations here in Mandalika went a little bit wrong. We just saw Dall'Igna on the screens there with the plasters on his face, on his nose, and bumps and bruises all over his face after he jumped into the shallow end of the swimming pool while celebrating Marc Marquez's triumph. So the boss and the star pupil in Ducati, well, they've been in the wars, haven't they, of late here in Lombok. Mal Fernandez back into the Trackhouse Aprilia garage. He's having a pretty strong session so far this afternoon. There's Fernandez on that beautiful livery Gulf paint scheme. That's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? We saw it at the start of the season. So Marco Bezzecchi, while he's doing a sterling job of keeping Aprilia's factory team in the fight here, isn't he? We go for Paolo Bonora a few moments ago talking to Jack down in pit lane. confirmation that this is no great surprise that we will not see Jorge Martin back in the saddle on that number 1 factory Aprilia at the next Grand Prix at Phillip Island in Australia. Will he be back in Sepang to try and bury some February demons, of course, where his 2025 injury hell really did start at the very first test of the season when he was on the floor twice in just 13 laps. The second of those 2 big high sides saw him sidelined for the whole of the pre-season, and just it looked like he was about to make his return. He got a bad injury in training, and then, well, it was just setback after setback after setback, wasn't it, for Martin? Back on track, let's pick up Bagnaia, who at the moment is down in 16th place. Bezzecchi then from Acosta, big gap between the top 2 of over, well, almost half a second. Feels like this is a bit of a flashback to some 2018, 2019, 2 factory Hondas fighting for the top 3. Mir 3rd, Marini 4th. Love to see it, absolutely love to see Honda competitive once again. 2 Yamahas directly behind the 2 Hondas as well. Rins and Quartararo 5th and 6th respectively.
So here comes Marc Marquez with a fresh set of leathers, security ensuring that no over-eager fans get in the way of the world champion on his way back into the box. Well, he's got a job to do in the next 22 minutes. That job is to lift himself off the bottom of the standings. He's on a 131.8. He's going to have to find 2 seconds if he's going to get on terms with Marco Bezzecchi.
From the top of the world on Sunday to the bottom of the timesheets on Friday here in Mandalika. This wasn't in the script, was it? Now, if there is anybody that we know that is capable of immediately bouncing back from setbacks, it is the rider on your screens, looking to preserve his record of going directly into Q2 in every session so far this season. He's the only rider that has advanced straight through to Q2. I hope he's not watching the screens right now in that factory Ducati, guys, because he's beginning a very painful reminder of the reason why at this stage of the session he's sat in that very seat. Yeah, that was an uncomfortable one. That was one of the biggest crashes that Mark's had in the factory Ducati, actually.
Shake of the head in the top left of your screens, and there was a bit of a puzzled shrug of the shoulders too, as if he didn't quite understand why this crash occurred. You can see the rear coming around from the onboard shot, and Mark landing hard on his right elbow, shoulder. Of course, it was the right arm that he broke back in 2020, which started this extraordinary story, which reached its Hollywood conclusion a week ago in Motegi. Marc Marquez, with the eyes of the world now upon him, looking to try and ensure that his first weekend as world champion isn't a rather inconspicuous one.
Yeah, big huddles around the world champion, aren't there? You can barely pick him out through the sea of red engineers and technicians and mechanics. I'm sure Davide Tardozzi was just having a little pep talk with Mark, just saying, hey, look, doesn't matter, does not matter if we're not going directly into Q2. Let's not go out there and make it a hat-trick of crashes in this afternoon session. Here is Zarco, who was one of our early fallers right at the start of this dramatic practice session here. Zarco down in the first sector, just as he was here 1 year ago. Acosta picking a fight with the top 3 once again. There's our drone operator staking a claim for a decent pay rise, I think, so far here this weekend in Lombok, bringing us these absolutely phenomenal pictures. Just gives you an indication, doesn't it, just how close we are to the spectacular coastline here of this beautiful island of Lombok. It was really buzzing in downtown Kuta here last night, which is very, very close to this Mandalika circuit. We look at Fabio Quartararo. 6th fastest at the moment on the factory Yamaha. This, though, is very much the calm before the storm. Only Quartararo and his factory Yamaha teammate Alex Rins and Bastianini currently are out on circuit. Everybody else just getting themselves ready and set for the time attacks at the end of this session. We know Marco Bezzecchi's 129.840 was set on a soft front, soft rear tyre combo, which is putting 4 tenths clear of Acosta in 2nd place. Well, it has not gone according to plan at all, has it? as day one of our world champion. We can see Marc Marquez is about to head back out on circuit. Jack, it's been a bit of a painful one.
Yes, that crash bike gets rolled back into the garage. I've been watching Mark closely, and I have to say, positive news for everyone watching back home. It doesn't seem to be any real after effects of that second big one. I was watching closely that left hand, which you saw him very, very carefully pick up after the crash, or that left shoulder that took a battering, but he's able to put his helmet on, put his gloves on, without wincing, with any kind of facial expression that would indicate he's under any real pain. The adrenaline, I'm sure, pumping, and he'll probably feel it tonight and into tomorrow morning, but certainly for the remaining 20 minutes of this one, Mark looks as though he's ready to go. The tyre warmer's coming back on, the world champion just about to head back out on track.
Thanks very much, Jack. So yeah, we'll see the 93 venturing back out on circuit very, very shortly. His spare Ducati GP25 gets rolled out to the garage, and he is then about to return to the fray. One of the toughest Friday afternoons of the season so far, hasn't it been for Mark? Just continues this kind of jinx that he has around this Mandalika International Circuit. Third place in last year's sprint is his only finish here in Mandalika. It is a very patchy record indeed, as Mark then is back out on circuit as we build up for this vital final third of this practice session here. Of course, it was until recently Alex Marquez and Mark were the only two riders left that had gone directly through to Q2 on a Friday. Mark is the last rider standing in terms of that aspect now, and to keep that record going, well, he's put himself under the pump here. He's under pressure, because Mark's best lap time before the second of his two crashes in this session at turn 5, well, the best lap he produced before that juncture was a 1:31.877. So he was 2 seconds, or he is, starting this crucial final phase of this practice session, adrift of Marco Bezzecchi by over 2 seconds.
Outside of Bezzecchi at the moment on a 1:29.8, I haven't got the first clue who the other 9 riders are going to be here into qualifying 2. Bez has got 4/10 over Acosta, who in turn has got a 1/4 of a second over Mir, but from Mir backwards, there is just 6/10 of a second from third all the way back to Frankie Morbidelli in 17th place. And what's complicating this for the likes of Ducati is the fact that not only is Bez super quick, but the Hondas are fast, Mir and Marini. The factory Yamahas are going super well too. Rins and Quartararo 5th and 6th. And of course, Ralph Fernandez on the 2nd of the Aprilia down the track this weekend is also currently inside that top 10. So this is not an easy route through to Q2 for any of our Ducatis.
So out lap completed, Mark head down, trying to push then now. You can see fresh rubber on that factory Ducati. Another impressive lap time being produced here by Rins on the factory Yamaha. He's currently in fifth, he's just gone third. Very impressive, to say the least, by Rins, a 1:30.359. Mark this time around does safely negotiate turn 5, which called him out a few moments ago. Bastianini has just gone up into 7th place. So straight away, riders that are going into time attack mode early on here are finding pace, they're finding times. The Beast up to 7th with a 1:30.813.
So already through the second sector, this is not going to be a lap that's going to put Marc Marquez certainly not into the top 6. Estimated at the moment only to go up ahead of Somkhiat Chantra, who's down in 19th. So Chantra improves up in a moment. We could have the factory Ducatis at the bottom of the field. Marc Marquez 20th, Pecco Bagnaia now back down to 18th place, and we've seen very little of him so far this afternoon. So Bagnaia's rebirth at the moment looks like it might be about to come to a screeching halt too. We follow Marc Marquez then into turn 15. You're on the right-hand side of the tyre for an absolute age here as you slow down to around about 65 kilometres an hour for turn 16. You've then got to get back over to the right-hand side of the circuit because you've got a left coming next. The final corner, turn 17. Marc Marquez, if he does go to the top 10, this isn't going to be by much. He goes into 6th place. A good final sector for him on a 1:30.6.
Superb final sector there by Mark. He's moved into the top 10 by a couple of tenths of a second. What? Did he need that lap time just to calm a bit of the anxiety, I'm sure, that's been coming his way after those 2 crashes at the start of this session? Costa flying once again already, second fastest. Rins up into P3. Alex Rins has only been in Q2 4 times previously so far this year. Not in Q2 since the Italian Grand Prix in Mugello. So So this is much more like the Rins of old, as Marini looking to respond. Mir also looking very, very rapid on the factory Honda once again. His first front row start for HRC, last time out in Motegi. This could be tight here, but Costa's nailed this final sector. He got the final corner right. Over the line he goes. I was going to say, if he nailed that fourth sector, he was only going to go one way as far as Acosta was concerned, and his way is to the top of the leaderboard at 129.718. Acosta back on top. Marini does improve. He's down to 130.410. So Marini's still there on the fringe of the top 3 and 4.
And Mir might still improve himself yet. It's going to be pretty close between the two factory Hondas with Mir here. Marc Marquez might be able to move into the top 3 with this. If he finishes the second lap as well as he finished the first, we'll follow Marini though first through this final corner. Marini on a 30.4. Where's Mir in comparison to that? It's about half a tenth slower in fifth.
Factory Hondas though inside the top 5. Here's Marc out of the final corner. He goes. Marc Marquez stays in P6. That's okay. 6th place will be good enough to keep his record of going into Q2 directly every single session this season. Bezzecchi and Acosta already our top 2 in this session. Well, they are flying. Bezzecchi in particular. Off the track again goes Marc. He has been one of the messiest Fridays we have seen in 2025 for the Spaniard. This is a showdown, a shootout at the moment between Acosta and Bezzecchi. The two of them are already in advance of over half a second clear of anybody else out on circuit here in Mandalika. Here comes Acosta then. Through turn 17, he'll flick that KTM left, not too far, just have your picture behind him is Bezzecchi. Acosta's going to be fastest, but for how long? Over the line the Spaniard goes. Doesn't improve. What about Bezzecchi? Oh, he does. Marco Bezzecchi. That is awesome. What a time by Bez. A 129.240. Well, we're creeping ever closer to Jorge Martin's all-time lap record, which is the 129.088. Martin absent, but the lone factory Aprilia rider, Marco Bezzecchi, flying here in Indonesia.
Bez is riding a different racetrack to the rest of them. He's so much faster. Once again extends his advantage to nearly half a second. Bagnaya's gone into the top 10 on a 30.5, but I don't think he's going to be up there for long. Mir down to a 30.0 now. It's 3 and 4 for the factory Hondas. Marc Marquez now splits them on a 130.0, which bumps Bagnaia back out of the top 10.
Yeah, Bez is so supreme, so darn good here on Friday in Mandalika so far, that only Acosta is within half a second of him, and then Marini, Aldeguer, Marc, Mir, that's just changed, we're within a second of him as Ralph Fernandez finds a 129.733 on the trackhouse Aprilia. Well, I have 2 remaining Aprilias in this Mandalika Grand Prix. What a fight they're putting up on this practice Friday. Bezzecchi fastest, Ralph Fernandez now up into 3rd place. Well, they might be a very depleted entry this weekend, but their 2 remaining riders, well, they are shining, aren't they, on this opening day here in Indonesia. Quartararo down in 13th place. He's got work to do in the final 10 minutes of this session to get himself directly into Q2.
Yeah, how must Igor and Jorge Martin be feeling right now watching this? The Aprilia looks like the class of the field at the moment, with 10 minutes of this practice session to go. Oliveira now into the top 10 on the factory Yamaha, so it's still a rather strange day this, with at the moment Oliveira inside the top 10 just ahead of Rins. Quartararo is at the moment the slowest Yamaha.
Maverick Vinales at the moment is getting the better of the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 team into battle. He's just got ahead of his teammate Bastianini. The problem is, that's for the lowly places of 18th and 19th respectively. Tough so far for the 3 KTMs aside from Acosta. Acosta, well, he's clearly head and shoulders at the moment. Way clear of anybody else on RC16. Acosta 2nd, Binder 17th, Vinales 18th, and Bastianini 19th. Boy, the KTM at the moment needs some Acosta form.
Aldeguer's now gone ahead of Acosta up into 2nd place. Aldeguer, a former Moto2 winner around this circuit. So it's Aprilia Ducati, KTM Aprilia up inside your top 4. Marc Marquez, who now sits on his chair, has been relegated back to 7th place. Quartararo now enters the pits. He was on course for a personal best, but presumably was only fueled up for that lap, so he comes into the box. That would have probably put Quartararo inside the top 10 had he completed the lap, but he didn't have the fuel to do so.
Yeah, I think this is just a let's be calm. Let's just use the brain. Yeah, let's just not take the risks. Marc Marquez himself, didn't he, last weekend when he did countless interviews after winning the World Championship, said how different of a character he is since Sabtu 2020. He said, well, he's learned more to minimise the risks. Well, how much risk will Marc be willing to take to squeeze into that Q2 session? At the moment going through, you can just see how tough the conditions are here in Mandalika. Sweat pouring off the brow of Marini in 5th place. As it stands right now, once again for the second Friday in a row, we're going to have 3 Hondas going straight into Q2. Marini's 5th, Mir is 8th, and Zarco is 10th. That's a great job by Zarco, because let's not forget, he was an early faller in this session in the opening sector. That's the bike to be on, though, on day one here in Mandalika, isn't it? Marco Bezzecchi's flying a Aprilia RSGP. 5th, of course, in the last 2 years here, including that unbelievable ride in 2023 when he heroically performed. He had surgery, remember, on the Sunday before the Grand Prix after a training crash at the Tavulia Ranch with the VR46 Academy. He flew in, jumped off the plane, had a medical, then participated in the opening session of the weekend. He actually finished 3rd in the sprint in 2023, less than a week after fracturing that collarbone. He passed Maverick Vinales on the last lap. So Marco Bezzecchi knows how to put together a fast lap around this Mandalika circuit when he's nowhere near 100% at his best. So when he is at his best, like he is right now, well, he's going to pose a significant threat for the double win here this weekend.
And how much further can he go in this session? Could he potentially go as far as a new all-time lap record? He's only got to improve by 1.5 tenths to do it.
Not sure what's going on there. Bagnaia just called over one of his mechanics. He may have just seen something flash up on the dashboard. Everything seems a-okay because he has been cleared to leave pit lane, which is a little bit of concern there for the 63. So then, fireworks about to be unleashed here in Mandalika. Marc Marquez, look at that, 2 crashes in the same session for the first time since Q2 here in Mandalika, exactly a year ago. Well, we talked about this Mandalika jinx that seems to be hanging over the head of Marc Marquez ever since we came here in 2022. Some of the biggest crashes he's had of his Grand Prix career, and Marc Marquez has had a few. He knows that himself. He's been down the floor twice then, first time in a session in a year. Great spot, great stat by our colleagues back at home in Barcelona.
So he ideally doesn't want to suffer a third in the remaining 6 minutes, but he's clearly going to have to take some risks in the time that remains, because he's by no means comfortable inside this top 10. A 1:30.085 for Marc Marquez. He's only in the top 10 by a couple of tenths of a second. He's got his teammate right there with him. Bagnaia also badly in need of a late improvement. He's got to find probably around half a second, Bagnaia, if he's going to make Q2.
Yeah, this is why Marc's just slotted in behind Pecco, because he knows that his teammate has got to get his head down, crack on here and get a lap time. We've seen this tactic employed previously before, haven't we? So through 14 we go. This is just building up some temperature in those Michelin tyres. So as it stands then, your top 10 will be Bezzecchi, Aldeguer, Acosta, Fernandez, Marini, the Marquez brothers, Mir, Oliveira and Zarco. As mentioned, for the second time in a week, 3 Hondas potentially going into Q2. That RC213V is coming to the party, isn't it? Fabio Quartararo needs to come to the party, pretty sharpish here in Mandalika. Frenchman down in 14th place. It's Bagnaia then. Head down, he's not bothered, he can't be bothered, can he, about Marc being in his slipstream. Quartararo then just, well, he has squeezed, and we say squeezed in the optimum term as far as Fabio is concerned. He's just got in 9th place, 6 thousandths of a second clear of Oliveira, just over 500ths clear of Zarco now in 11th place. So Quartararo bumps out his fellow Frenchman.
Bagnaia nowhere in the first sector. Look how much Marc Marquez has caught him already on this lap, and this lap ain't going to move Bagnaia into the top 10 unless he does something heroic in the remaining 3 sectors. The rear steps out on the way into turn 10. Marc Marquez once again closes up. Bagnaia already a second adrift. He's going to have another couple of attempts to try and rescue this.
Yeah, Marc potentially picking up 1 spot from 7th to 6th. He can't rest on his laurels here. This is not a given that he's going to be directly into Q2. So 2 GP25s stuck in P nowhere right now. Gian Antonio 15th. We're on board with Bagnaia, who's currently in 16th. Alex Rins, another shout out to Rins. He has just got himself back up inside that top 10. He's 9th fastest at the moment. As everybody, well, Bagnaia.
Trying to come back onto the racetrack and found Brad Binder riding the way. It's just gets a symbol of how scruffy this afternoon has been, all told for Ducati.
So it's a 1:29.240, and that's the time that everybody's chasing. That time surely, well, that's a given. I think Marco Bezzecchi can already plot his plans for Q2 tomorrow morning. Raul Fernandez still up there inside the top 4 with a 1:29.733. Two Aprilis, only two Aprilis on track inside the top 4. Morbidelli trying to make a late move, and he needs it as well. The Italian, who of course fought so closely for the podium here 1 year ago before Bagnaia got the better of late on in the Grand Prix. Oh, somebody's down
Alex
Marquez. Well, the Ducatis are having a dismal day here, aren't they, in Mandalika, and so too are the Marquez siblings. The third crash of the day for Mark and Alex. This is a painful one, isn't it, for Alex, who is trying to hang on to second place overall in the World Championship. Bagnaia, has he made a mistake there, or has he rolled out of it? That's to turn 10.
He was way offline when we cut round to him. Good to see Alex Marquez is now up on his feet. This is into turn 12 through the left-hander foreground, and the front end goes very early, and already Alex Marquez is trying to protect himself from the impact that's coming. Fortunately, it was the bike that took the brunt of the damage.
Yeah, I'd imagine sliding for a good, 50 odd metres on his back there on what is a scorching hot surface. There's just going to be a little bit of friction that might have just friction burns on the skin there for Alex. That was a nasty one. Well, our top 2 riders in the World Championship, including our world champion, of course, now Marc Marquez, are having a punishing Friday here in Indonesia. Mark at the moment, though, is still in Q2. That's the most crucial aspect for him. He's in 8th place. Rins and Quattro on the factory Yamahas just behind him.
Bagnaia has 2 more shots at this lap and 1 more. He didn't get over in time to complete this lap and 1 more, but the yellow flags are out again. They're in the first sector. Are they ahead of Bagnaia or are they behind him? As he now comes to complete the first sector, they were ahead of him, and it was a crash for Enea Bastianini, who will not be improving on 14th place.
Yeah, it's been a miserable time for Enea since he had that brilliant podium in Barcelona. We thought that was the big breakthrough moment for the beast, didn't we, in Catalonia? But since that epic 3rd place in Spain, well, it's been all downhill since. Oh, Zarco's down for the second time as well. And that's another heavy one for Zarco. Just look at the damage to the back of his leathers. Turn 8. Well, it's turning into a bit of a demolition derby, this, isn't it, here? Front end goes out from underneath Zarco. Just on the lip of the gravel there, he just got picked up and flipped over a couple of times. So late yellow flag drama is going to be so pivotal in this session. 35 seconds remaining, action spaces there. That's Pecco Bagnaia's crew chief Christian Gabarini. Bagnaia is going to get 1 lap, but will it be a yellow flag free lap? That's going to be the big question.
I don't know ultimately how much of a difference this is making to Pecco Bagnaia, because he has been struggling all afternoon, but he's had consecutive laps now impacted by yellows. First for Alex Marquez's crash, and now for Johan Zarco's crash. 10 seconds remaining. If those yellow flags aren't cleared quickly, which they are now, then Bagnaia might have been absolutely powerless. He has 1 more shot to book his place into Q2, and could it be his teammate that he knocks out?
Mark right in the danger zone, right at risk, down in 9th place still. Raul Fernandez is still inside that top 5. First rider in this session to take the checker flag is Acosta. He's safely through, no problems. 3rd place for the KTM rider. Morbidelli's just set his best lap of the session so far. He's got over the line crew to go 1 more, but he's just outside in 11th place. Mark, 8 thousandths clear of Rins in 10th spot. The times are so tight. You can see why fine margins when you're on the ragged edge, when you're on the limit like Zarco was, pushing for a Q2 time. 13th is the best we'll see Zarco potentially finish here, and Bagnaia's in Q1, isn't he? Pecco Bagnaia, unless he has the second half of his life here around this Mandalika circuit. Through sector 3 he goes. Let's pick him up on the 16.3 Ducati. Has he found any time? Forget it, game over. We will see Pecco Bagnaia in tomorrow morning's Q1 session. Mark somehow, despite his 2 falls in this practice session, is just about clinging on to a place in Q2. He's still 9th. He's back in 10th though now.
Yeah, he's really
Mark
clinging on because Rins has gone 7th. Quartararo's going quicker than Marquez just behind him, so Mark can't afford to back off on this final lap. Rins is safely through to Q2. Alex Marquez is 9th. He could be into some real pressure shortly. Here comes Bagnaia improves. Mark goes 10th, but Quartararo could be about to dump him out.
Quartararo does. Fabio Quartararo then, with a late 1:29.837, has pushed Marc Marquez down to 11th place. So for the first time in 2025, we will see Marc Marquez, the newly crowned world champion, feature in our opening 15-minute Q1 session. Well, what a fraught Friday this has been to start his reign as world champion. Marc Marquez, 2 crashes in this practice session. The second was a heavy one, wasn't it, at turn 5. And for the first time in 2025, for the first time as a factory Ducati rider, Marc Marquez finds himself in Q1, joined by his teammate Pecco Bagnaia, who has gone from hero to zero in the space of 5 days, hasn't he, Bagnaia? The race winner in such dominant fashion last time out in Motegi. 17th on the timesheets was Bagnaia. All 3 Ducati GP25s in Q1. Mark 11th, Bagnaia 17th, the Gian Antonio a dismal 18th, only Vinales and Chandra behind him. Take nothing away though from Marco Bezzecchi, who has been absolutely mustard here in Mandalika on Friday. A 1:29.240. It was not even close. It wasn't really a contest, wasn't it? Bezzecchi over 0.4 of a second faster than Aldeguer in second. Acosta's third. We do get 2 factory Hondas once again through in the Q2. Marini 4th, Mir 6th. Ralph Fernandez a superb 5th. 2 of Aprilia's inside the top 5. Fernandez, the last rider in 5th, that was within half a second of the brilliant Bezzecchi. Quartararo, Rins, Oliveira and Alex do go into Q2. Alex then surviving his late scare at turn 12 in 10th place. So many great stories in that session. Bezzecchi flying, Aldeguer second, Marini and Mir looking good on the factory Hondas once again. Ralph Fernandez shining for Trackhouse. Both factory Yamahas into Q2 as well. 3 Yamahas through. Miguel Oliveira, of course, in a brilliant 9th place. Wow, Marc Marquez in Q1. First Q1 appearance since the Saxon Ring in 2024, as you can see on the graphic on your screens.
The factory Ducatis have gone AWOL in Lombok here this afternoon. As you say, none of them through, none of the GP25s through. Only 2 Ducatis, period, are through to Q2. The Gresini Ducatis of Aldeguer up in second, and Alex Marquez scrapes through in 10th despite his late crash. Both of the factory Aprilias through. We've got 2 of the factory Hondas through, 3 Yamahas through. MotoGP turned upside down in Indonesia today.
Bezzecchi was just on a different level, just superb. Mir, he is looking strong once again. Momentum, confidence, 2 wonderful things to have on your side in MotoGP. Well, he's got both right now, hasn't he? Second on the grid in Japan last time out, 4th for the podium in the sprint, and then on the podium for the first time in HRC colours in the Grand Prix. A lot of approval from Bez. No wonder why, because that was simply stunning from simply the Bez. Just absolutely awesome. Aldeguer over 0.4 of a second behind him in second place. Good job that by Aldeguer, to be fair to him, because he had a pretty heavy trip down the road this morning at turn 8 as he acquainted himself with this Mandalika circuit for the first time in MotoGP. Well, P1 in the World Championship, but Q1 tomorrow morning beckons for our new world champion, Marc Marquez. He looks rather animated in these discussions, doesn't he, with his crew chief Marco Rigamonti. It just looks like that when he gets the wheel spin, when he loses the rear tyre, there's no sort of feedback, it's just a snap, a vicious kick, and that's it. You're out of control, as we saw with his crash at turn 5. So, well, you can count them on one hand. bad days that Marcus had at the office on the factory Ducati, and that was one of them, without any question. 2 falls, one which really would have shaken him up at turn 5, and then out of the top 10 on a Friday afternoon for the first time this season. It was close, wasn't much in it. He was an even 700ths of a second behind brother Alex, but it is Alex that leads the Marquez charge directly into Q2.
Not without its problems for Alex either, of course, with that late crash coming through turn 12, but he is, I wouldn't say safely through to Q2, but you better been through than not. And of course, with so many heavyweights in qualifying 1 tomorrow afternoon, of course it was only a couple of years ago here that both of the factory Ducati riders were in qualifying 1 when Bastianini bumped Bagnaia out crucially in that session. First time since Valencia later that year that both of the Ducati factory riders go through qualifying 1. And the revival of Pecco Bagnaia, something of a forced and sarcastic smile for the 2-time world champion. A miserable Friday afternoon for him.
Well, he's having to grin and bear it right now. There's Bagnaia. The sun starts to set off into the distance. Well, all at sea today were the factory Ducatis, weren't they? Marc Marquez 11th and dumps out of Q2 on a Friday for the very first time this season. Bagnaia 17th, but Marco Bezzecchi cruising here in Indonesia.
4/10 clear of the field, and it looked it for most of the day. Bezzecchi quickest, comfortably, from Fermin Aldeguer on the Grappini Ducati second. Pedro Acosta for KTM third, from Luca Marini, Raul Fernandez and Joan Mir. A trio of Yamahas through to Q2, Quartararo, Rins and Oliveira, and Alex Marquez secures the final Q2 spot despite a late crash at the expense of his brother. World champion Marc Marquez 11th, both BR46 Ducatis out of the top 10, along with Pecco Bagnaia down in 17th place.
Well, Friday was pretty eventful and pretty dramatic, wasn't it? At the Mobility Resort Motegi 7 days ago. That has just about matched it, if not beaten it. What a way to start round 18 here in Indonesia. Marco Bezzecchi, well, it doesn't matter what tyres he was running in this session, he was just flying. Was it a lot of work on the medium combination for Bears. Race pace, 1 lap pace, he's on a different level right now.
Fermin Aldeguer, the next best then in second place, albeit 4/10 adrift, did almost all of his session by the looks of it, if not the entire session, on soft front and rear tyres. Of course, the new rubber propelled him to a 1:29.6 to take P2.
Pedro Acosta started from the front row of the grid here in Mandalika last year and finished second in the Grand Prix. Well, he's well set for another strong challenge here this weekend. Acosta head and shoulders the lead rider for KTM here today. Started the session on a used medium front tyre, then had a good look at the hard front and soft rear. It was a busy session, wasn't that, in terms of his Michelin tyre work from the 21-year-old, and when he went full soft front, soft rear, he found a 1:29.664. Acosta third fastest.
And this morning's pace setter Luca Marini continuing largely where he left off this afternoon once again. Much like the riders up ahead of him, doing a lot of work on soft front and rear Michelins. His best work ultimately got him down to a 1:29.730 as he took 4th place.
Marini joined in Q2 tomorrow by his factory Honda teammate Joan Mir. Both factory Yamahas through as well. Marco Bezzecchi tight in that first sector, isn't it? 0.02 of a second clear of Acosta and Mir.
Wasn't remotely tight through sector 2 with just 18 seconds worth of tarmac. He was at 10.5 clear.
Honda fighting back in that short sector 3. Look at that, Marini from Mir ahead of Bezzecchi.
And 2022 winner Miguel Oliveira on the Pramac Yamaha, quickest in sector 4.
I think that's what you call a mixed bag on a mixed bag Friday here in Indonesia. That's a pretty good vantage point, isn't it, as you capture all of the action here in Mandalika. Well, it's been a rough ride to his reign as MotoGP World Champion, hasn't it, for Marc Marquez? Into Q1 for the first time in 2025 he goes. No problems though for Marco Bezzecchi. Top dog on the factory Aprilia.
Bye-bye.